The policeman on the beat moved up the avenue impressively. The impressiveness was habitual and not for show, for spectators were few. The time was barely 10 o'clock at night, but the chilly gust of winds, with the taste of rain in them, had well nigh depeopled the streets. Trying doors as he went, twirling his club with many intricate and artful movements, turning now and then to cast a watchful eye adown the Pacific thoroughfare, the officer, with his stalwart form and slight swagger, made a fine picture of a guardian of the peace. The vicinity was one that kept early hours. Now and then you might see the light of a cigar store or of an all-night lunch counter, but the majority of the stores belonged to business places that had long since been closed. When about midway of a certain block, the policeman suddenly slowed his walk. In the doorway of a darkened hardware store, a man leaned with an unlit cigar in his mouth. As the policeman walked up to him, the man spoke up quickly. "It's all right, officer," he said reassuringly. "I'm just waiting for a friend. It's an appointment made 20 years ago. Sounds a little funny to you, doesn't it? Well, I'll explain if you'd like to make certain it's all straight. About that long ago, there used to be a restaurant here where this store stands. Big old Brady's restaurant." "Until 5 years ago," said the policeman. "It was torn down then." The man in the doorway struck a match and lit his cigar. The light showed a pale, square-jawed face with keen eyes, and a little white scar near his right eyebrow. His scarf pin was a large diamond, oddly set. 20 years ago tonight," said the man, "I dined here at Big Joe Brady's with Jimmy Wells, my best chum, the finest chap in the world. He and I were raised here in New York just like two brothers, together. I was 18, Jimmy was 20. The next morning, I was to start for the West to make my fortune. I couldn't have dragged Jimmy out of New York. He thought it was the only place on earth. Well, we agreed that night that we would meet here again exactly 20 years from that date and time, no matter what our conditions might be or from what distance we might have to come. We figured that in 20 years, each of us ought to have our destiny worked out and our fortunes made, whatever they were going to be." "Sounds pretty interesting," said the policeman. "Rather a long time between meets, though, it seems to me. Haven't you heard from your friend since you left?" "Well, yeah, for a time we corresponded," said the other. "But after a year or two, we lost track of each other. You see, the West is a pretty big proposition, and I kept hustling around it pretty lively. But I know Jimmy will meet here if he's alive, for he'd always was the truest, staunchest old chap in the world. He'll never forget. I came 1,000 miles to stand in this door tonight, and it's worth it if my old partner turns up." The waiting man pulled out a handsome watch, the lid of it set with small diamonds. 3 minutes to 10, he announced. It was exactly 10 o'clock when we parted here at the restaurant door. "Did pretty well out west, didn't you?" asked the policeman. "You bet. I hope Jimmy's done half as well. He was kind of a plotter, though. Good fellow as he was. I've had to compete with some of the sharpest wits going to get my pile. A man gets in his groove in New York. It takes the West to put a razor edge on him." The policeman twirled his club and took a step or two. "I'll be on my way. I hope your friend comes around all right. Gonna call time on him sharp?" "I should say not," said the other. "I'll give him a half hour at least. If Jimmy is alive on Earth, he'll be here by that time. So long, officer." "Good night, sir," said the policeman, passing along his beat, trying doors as he went. There is now a fine, cold drizzle falling, and the wind has risen from uncertain puffs to a steady blow. A few foot passengers astir in the quarter hurried, dismally and silently along with their coat collars turned high and pocketed hands. In the door of the hardware store, the man who had come 1,000 miles to fill an appointment uncertain almost to absurdity with a friend from his youth, smoked his cigar and waited. About 20 minutes he waited, and then a tall man in a long overcoat, with the collar turned up to his ears, hurried across the opposite side of the street. He went directly to the waiting man. "Is that you, Bob?" he asked doubtfully. "Is that you, Jimmy Wells?" cried the man in the door. "Bless my heart!" exclaimed the new arrival, grasping the other man's hand of his own. It's Bob, sure as fate. I was certain I'd find you here if you were still in existence. Well, well, well. 20 years is a long time. The old gone Bob. I wish it had lasted so we could have another dinner there. How has the West treated you, old man? Bully. It has given me everything I've asked for it. You've changed lots, Jimmy. I never thought you so tall by 2 to 3 inches. Oh, I grew a bit after I was 20. Doing well in New York, Jimmy? Moderately. I have a position in one of the city departments. Come on, Bob. We'll go to a place I know and have a good long talk about the old times. The two men then start up the street, arm in arm. The man from the West, his egotism enlarged by success, was beginning to outline the history of his career. The other, submerged in his overcoat, listened with interest. At the corner stood a drugstore, brilliant with electric lights. And when they came into this glare, each of them turned simultaneously to gaze upon each other's face. The man from the West stopped, seized his arm. You're not Jimmy Wells, he snapped. 20 years is a long time, but not long enough to change a man's nose from Roman to a pug. That sometimes changes a good man into a bad one, said the tall man. You've been under arrest for 10 minutes, Silky Bob. Chicago thinks you may have dropped over our way and wires us she wants to have a chat with you. Going quietly, are you? That's sensible. Now, before we go to the station, here's a note I was asked to hand you. You may read it here at the window. It's from Patrolman Wells. The man from the West unfolded a little piece of paper handed to him. His hand was steady when he began to read, but it trembled a little by the time he had finished. The note was rather short. Bob, I was at the appointed place on time. When you struck the match to light your cigar, I saw it was the face of the man I wanted in Chicago. Somehow, I couldn't do it myself, so I went around and got a plainclothes man to do the job. Jimmy.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you for that. I'm Mark Franzen. In a world full of AI-generated everything, this is still a real human voice, and I plan to keep it that way. If this story did something for you, hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me what you thought, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.